We are live. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you are joining us from. We're just going to make sure everything is set up correctly. So we are live mainly, guys, in our Facebook group. We know that our Facebook community is on and popping, and it's always just a joy to bring you guys information whenever we can, whenever I can share a little bit more insight on things. I am so happy and excited to do so. So we welcome our IG community as well. Hey guys, how are you? So today we're going to be diving into a really important topic, okay? So the benefit of being in the Facebook room, of course, is that I'm a visual person, so there are different visuals that are going with what I'm saying. But regardless, it is important that we address the big question that a lot of parents come to me. Some are pretty open with sharing it when they do meet me for the first time and they say, Elise, why is my child struggling to read? Why is my child struggling to read? Probably the number one question that I get. And today we're going to address that. We're going to address that. So we're letting our Facebook community come into the room. If you are a parent who has a child that is facing a challenge of reading, of comprehension, then this conversation is for you. Okay. As you know, my focus is always French learning. Okay. For those that are joining me for the first time, if you don't know me, my name is Elise Beckles, and I'm the founder here at the French Tutor. And we care about everything French literacy, one, and two, or actually 1B, if you will, building children's confidence in the French language. So come on in. We're going to get started. Okay. So let's go. Let's go. You guys are hearing me okay? Welcome in. So the big question, why is my child struggling to read? So as I mentioned, if you are a parent who has a child who is in their earlier years, because that is really where a lot of reading interventions can be super useful and make the rest of their learning and academic journey smoother, if you will, then this conversation is for you. Okay, so here we go, guys. So let's talk about the whole complexity of reading. Okay, if you know me, if you follow me, you know that I'm pretty honest. Okay, I never tell you that if you work really hard, you're going to understand, or just pay attention and you'll get it. No, I am really transparent in saying that reading is complex. Okay. There isn't just this magic formula that you put together and you're able to automatically read. And there isn't this one size fit all method that allows your child to begin to read and develop the different skills and pieces that equal reading comprehension. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today, all right? So when it comes to reading, okay, we need to understand and acknowledge that reading is complex, okay? It's a multi-dimensional skill. Even whatever your native language is, think about it. Think about it as I speak about this from a French perspective, but think about it just overall reading, okay? The act of reading and what that is. So reading is not just about recognizing words, okay? You're not just recognizing words. It actually involves a complex interplay of phonemic awareness. So when I say these terms, make notes because there's there's terms that may not make sense to you, but literally phonemic awareness just means the ability to hear and manipulate sounds in words. Okay. Words are comprised of letters that make different sounds, and there's an awareness of that allows things to make sense to you. Okay. Then there's also decoding skills. So when we talk about decoding skills, we're talking about translating written words into sounds. Okay. Written words into sounds right away. Complex, right? Then on top of that, there's fluency, there's comprehension, and vocabulary. We also need to take into consideration developmental stages. So when it comes to our kids, and I'm sure a lot of you have children who are different ages in the room today, and there's different stages or different milestones that children of a certain age or grade level should be aiming for. Okay. And this goes from everything from understanding basic sounds to recognizing words and eventually comprehending more complex texts. Okay. So when there are different delays, when there are maybe different challenges at the different stages, you can imagine that those gaps can only widen. Okay. So this kickoff is just letting you guys know reading is complex. Okay. We're acknowledging that. But of course, the next step is we've got to be solution oriented. Okay. So we're talking about why it's complex. Now let's address a little bit of the common challenges. Okay. So I mentioned this earlier. Okay. Phonemic awareness issues. Okay. What did I say? What did I say starting out? That was that was the ability to hear and manipulate sounds in words. All right. So sometimes our children, they have difficulties in distinguishing or manipulating sounds, and that makes it hard for them to decode words. Okay. For instance, tell me if this rings a bell. They can mix up similar sounds or struggle to blend sounds to form words. A lot of times we see our children and they may look like they're trying, but their association almost leads to what they think the word is, and then they just end up guessing the rest. Okay. So I've seen our students, and sometimes it does give me a laugh because children are funny, but they will literally look at a word, look away, and say a brand new word from maybe the two letters they recognized in that. So that's lacking, right? The phonemic awareness. So that's a big challenge for a lot of our students. Secondly, vocabulary limitations. Okay. The impact of a child, of a reader, someone who is trying to get better at reading, of having a limited vocabulary, it leads to limited comprehension. Okay. You have to know what words are and more than one type of word means in order to grasp full reading comprehension. So, this vocab limitation can happen when children have a lack of exposure to a rich variety of words. How many of us even find ourselves very often? We say the same thing all the time. Okay. So we might, I mean, I was even called out by people, or someone who speaks to me very closely. And there was one word I was just saying all the time. It was one word. And I think it was weird. I think the word was weird, but I was using weird to describe so many different things. And I was like, wow, Lise, you're out here teaching our kids about vocabulary building and you're taking some shortcuts in the English language. So this is when, we don't expose our kids to rich variety of words. And it isn't even just about us being the person to expose it, but exposure of words comes from reading. Okay. When children struggle to understand context, okay, reading, watching, okay, digesting different ways of processing information, that helps their vocabulary expand, right? So there's an intention behind vocabulary building. Thirdly, sentence structure and grammar. So this is a common challenge. It is a common challenge, I would say, in both the English and the French language, because this is highlighting how difficulties in understanding sentence construction and grammar can lead to misinterpretation of text. Okay. This once again negatively impacts reading comprehension. So when you don't have the tools that give you sentence structure understanding, when your grammar, your grammatical awareness isn't all the way there, that can throw something way off, right? So we always give examples of you saying something is happening now versus something already happened is a big difference. Okay. So when we have our students learn about grammar, the context of it, the importance of it, and even showing the contrast of how grammar exists in English, we just a little bit more passively use it when we're speaking, but that is so, so key to our kids' reading comprehension. Okay. Hope you guys are taking notes because, I'm here to give you some insights. All right. Then we'll move on to psychological factors. Psychological factors. Psychological factors are a whole other beast. I'm not even going to dive into them, but we're going to acknowledge some of them. Okay. So, lack of confidence, anxiety. A lot of children sometimes have a negative association with reading. And these types of experiences, these type of realities for our kids can form a psychological barrier when it comes to the reading process. I joke around, right? Because I do enjoy good humor, but I joke around that back in the day, reading, go and read a book was always our parents and a lot of parents that my friends had growing up, it was kind of it wasn't really a punishment, but it felt like the only leisure activity that was meant to be done. And as a child, you would rather play than read a book. So if you're like, I'm bored, go read a book, right? That doesn't exactly bring a child joy if reading a book is sort of this default way of filling empty time. Okay. So I'm not saying that's not a habit in a different style to bring in, but I am saying that sometimes children do have a negative way of viewing what reading means or what reading time means, and that can be a blocker in their success. Okay, so now let's talk about environmental influences. Okay, environmental influences when you are trying to understand why is your child struggling to read. So factors like the home environment, okay, exposure to different reading materials and the quality of instruction at school. I am not here to say reading is being taught in a good way or bad way in the school system. What I am here to say is that different ways of instruction will impact and will allow our students to digest information differently. So it's about methods here, okay? So your job as a parent, as a guardian, is to make certain observations. No one child is the same. Certain children are very visual, okay? They can see pictures in a story and they can recap that story for you, okay? The pictures help them remember and guided them in that recollection journey. Then there are students who, if you read to them, right? I know a lot of young ones, the habit, my nephew has a story read to him every night. It is a habit that happens at their home. And that's a different way of receiving information, right? Having someone read to you, you're processing, you're listening, even as you're reading the story with your child, asking questions along the way. Okay. So making sure that you are putting a very intentional foot forward when it comes to exposing your children to age appropriate and interesting reading. Okay. We can't control what's happening at school, like I said, but our way of providing different instructional methods for our children to address the common challenges in their reading is is going to show a significant difference. Okay. All right, so this is one of my favorite diagrams to show parents and to show people. I know my IG fam, you guys can't see what I am sharing, but I hopefully you can listen and hopefully I can share the replay as this presentation is done. Okay, so when it comes to reading, I always tell parents because and it's important for me to reassure parents because one thing that we can very easily do is point the finger back to ourselves and take blame. Why can't they read? By this age, I was doing this, or maybe they have a sibling and the sibling is able to do this, but your child can't do this. So here's what I want to show you guys. Okay. This is a visual metaphor because I'm a visual person. Okay. So this visual metaphor is meant to give you hopefully that awareness of what pieces are actually involved in someone being a skilled reader. So when I chat with parents and have conversations, I let them know being good at reading is not random. It's not like you are born a good reader, but there are certain things that are interconnected, as you see in this rope diagram, that allow you to do that. So let me break it down. So this diagram is actually called the reading rope, okay? And Scarborough's rope, right, it was developed by someone who had the last name Scarborough, And this is a visual metaphor for how skills are developed over time that lead to skilled reading. Okay. And I love a good diagram. The diagrams help things make sense. So when it comes to skilled reading, there are two things that need to be present in order for your child or for anyone to become a skilled reader. The first one is language comprehension. Language comprehension is huge, and I'm going to break this down. So language comprehension involves things like vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, background knowledge, literacy knowledge, okay? Language comprehension. Now, language comprehension, it is something that cannot exist on its own. Language comprehension has to exist with word recognition. Okay, when we talk about decoding, sight recognition, knowing what syllables are, how to break those down, uh, alphabetic principles, all of that stuff has to be present and woven together to have someone give fluent execution of text comprehension. So, for example, the reason why all of us, maybe most of us, can read a book that has a joke, like a knock knock joke book, okay? Do those still exist? Maybe. Anywho, so knock knock jokes. There's a reason why we can all maybe read the same thing and we might chuckle and laugh at the same thing because we have these two pieces that are making sense for us. So we have the background knowledge. So something is funny to us because maybe they said a fact that we can all agree on, or something that is relatable for the majority of us. Maybe they're doing different inferences or metaphors, which majority can associate with. Okay. So that's comprehension of the language. But there's words that are making up that text, right? So that's the awareness of, oh, this word means this word means that. I'm able to put those words together to make a sentence. I have the comprehension of the language layered on top of that. So now I am a skilled reader. I understand the words, I see the words, I know what the words mean. Okay, linked together, that is fluent execution. So when we talk about different languages, I mean, this theory is equally as relevant for French language learners because it hopefully helps you understand why your kids are struggling in a different way, because this diagram is meant to enlighten you that your kids are still developing in all of these areas in their second language. French is not an easy language. So your children are currently, and some of them it's a third language, guys. Your children are currently developing language comprehension in French. So they're learning different background knowledge. They're understanding different vocabulary and different metaphors and genres in French is also very important. That's developing, okay? And in combination with that, they're learning literally what these different words mean, what letters make what sounds. This is different than English. Why is it different than English? So all of that is happening, okay? So don't really be defeated that if the reading in the French is a struggle right now, because as you can see, a lot has to go into reading, like the act of reading, in order for someone to have that fluency, that word recognition, and text comprehension. So you're not alone in this, okay? And when we think about it, and I usually share this tidbit as well, these concepts are not just for French, okay? If your child is struggling to read in English, this piece, this rope, this visual metaphor is still applicable to them. Okay. So when our children are struggling to read, we now need to address, okay, what area, what is it? You know, are they able to make those sounds with the words they're seeing, right? Okay, yes or no, then we know, okay, it's a word recognition issue, right? If they're not able to explain certain language structures or maybe understand certain metaphors within the language, we can have a deeper dive and say, okay, language comprehension, or perhaps they're missing pieces from different areas, okay? So the whole key here is let us diagnose what exactly is going on. Let's address it and let's get our kids to become the fluent and skilled readers they deserve to be. And guys, I'm going to leave time for questions for sure. Okay, so just hang out, but I will leave time for questions. Thank you for everyone who's been joining. So here's what I want to recommend. I never leave you guys without something to do, without a next step in terms of what you can be doing at home starting today. Today, if you want, you can start. Okay, so firstly, I want you guys to, if you don't already, create a reading routine. Okay, this is so, so important. Establish a daily reading time in a quiet, comfortable space. And it's not just about, like I said, the whole concept of go read a book. Make sure that your child is really involved in the process, because if you want to make some changes, if you want to see your kids get to a different level when it comes to their reading and to their literacy overall, consistency is key. Okay. So this doesn't have to be a long routine. I will be the first one to say 15, 20 minutes of focused reading time makes a huge difference. You do not want them to kick and scream and say, I do not want to be reading. Okay. We want them to enjoy this time. And I always say gamify the process. Even if you have to set a timer or ask them to ask Siri or tell Alexa, set the timer for 15 minutes, they're going to love that. Okay. And also allow them to choose a variety of books that are appropriate for their reading level and interests. So I know some parents do not want to see their kids with more comic books or books that you wouldn't choose for them, but give them a little bit of freedom in this, because if there is going to be that consistency in that routine, you want them, like I said, to have a little bit of ownership in the process. So just see, even if at your local library or from school, that they have books that are age appropriate that they can access and they can select from that batch. Okay. Secondly, read aloud together. Huge, huge, huge. Notice I said read aloud. Okay, read aloud, because silent reading, if you're struggling to read, it ain't gonna do anything. Silent reading is not gonna work if your child is struggling to read. Read aloud together. So when it comes to French learning, I know the majority of you are not French speakers. So you're probably wondering, Elise, what do I do? I don't speak the language. Your job is not to speak the language. Your job is to be a participant in the process. Okay. So participate in shared reading sessions where they can read a book to you. Okay. This helps in modeling fluent reading, okay? Demonstrating how to tackle difficult words and showing how to use expression while reading. So very often group read alouds are a thing for me and how we teach our classes. And I will have students reread passages when I literally have no feeling behind it. I say, guys, was there a robot in class today? Okay, I want you to go back and read that sentence or that paragraph with expression, put a little bit of life behind it. So encourage them as this is happening as well. Okay, encourage them and ask questions about the story. So you being a participant means you're inquisitive. What's happening here? For a lot of them, there might be some pictures, right? So who's this character? What's his name? Okay, and asking questions about a story helps to improve comprehension and keep this reading session interactive. All right. Then let's talk about incorporating phonics games and activities. So engaging your children in simple phonics activities is a big deal. Uh, I'm very into the metaphors of language, and I always share that phonics for me, it's a lot like Lego, and a lot of our kids like Lego. So Lego, it's Lego by itself is not doing much. Okay, Lego piece is not doing much. But when you are putting Lego together and you have something you're working towards, you're building a structure, then Lego becomes a structure. Lego becomes a finished product. So when you're talking about games that are phonics focused, that's sounding out letters, blending sounds to make words, and breaking words into small pieces. Okay. And I always say we live in an age where there are so many online resources and apps available where we can make the phonics learning fun, okay? Fun and engaging. Keep it fun. Learning should be fun. Okay, I will say that. I will never get tired of saying that. Learning should be fun. And you, as parents, just make sure their learning experience is as engaging as possible. Okay, so what else do I want you guys to do? I want you guys to try using, I've said this before, but it is something you can never tire of an activity like this one, and that is using labels around the home. So when I talk about labels, it's about labeling common items in your house with the names. I always say if your children are learning French, it is important to compare and contrast. So I would normally suggest, based on the grade they're in, probably grade 1 to 3, SK to 3, that you label these sticky notes in both French and English. Okay. This helps them in so many ways. So, I mean, guys, literally a sticky note, writing the French or the English word, okay, and then right beside it or right underneath it, writing the French word, have them do it, okay? This is not just allowing them to build their vocabulary, okay? We're talking about how to get better at reading, but it helps them associate written words with the corresponding objects. That's usually the blocker for our French students. What does that mean? How do you say this? Yes, let's learn to say the everyday items by doing this really simple, and I would say it's a fun activity for them. Weekly basis. Pick 5 things around the house, label them, okay, and let them practice and enhance their word recognition skills that way, okay? And it's a simple way to make reading a part of everyday life. So having your kids teach you is huge. Having your children teach you is super key, and it builds their confidence as well. All right, let's talk about encouraging writing. Encouraging writing. So nothing in French exists on its own. I always describe French learning as, let's say, a full body workout. All right. You cannot just go to the gym or go to a workout and work on arms all the time. You can't say, you know what? I just improve on my French speaking. So I'm only going to work on French speaking all the time. That is not real fluency. Okay. Real fluency comes from being able to read, write, listen, okay, speak. Okay, so when you're encouraging your child to write regularly, because that's what we see as sometimes one of the weaker muscles in the learning as well, then we see that, or you as parents, hopefully you see very quickly how closely writing skills are linked to reading skills. So when you are a strong reader, your writing should be coming along that strength journey with you. Okay, so here's what I encourage that your kids start with: writing small sentences over the summer, or normally when there's a break. I always say, don't let the French fall all the way off. Have them keep a journal. Even if during the school year there's a journal, end of the week reflections. Okay, end of the week. How was your week? Give me a paragraph on your week. Write me a paragraph, or even creating simple stories. This practice helps in understanding sentence structure, grammar, and enhances their ability to express thoughts in written form, which is key. I want you guys to be able to say it, but I also want our students to be able to write it. That's fluency. That is true fluency. Okay. So I want to make sure that our Facebook group, I'm on like a ton of different screens, guys. So if you do have any questions, please make sure that you're dropping them in the chat. I'll be very, very happy to respond to them. I know some of our parents who are already in our programs are on the call right now. So hi guys, how are you doing? So for those who are on Facebook, if you or IG, because I am looking at both areas, if you guys had a question, feel free to drop it in the chat or in the comment area. I'll try to refresh and see what I can address right now. Okay. We do have something. If someone was on the call live and they were a first-time parent in our community, I did have something a little bit special, but you do have to acknowledge that it is your first time with us and that your child would potentially be eligible for one of our programs. So you do have to speak up or write up in order for what I had special for that small group of people planned. Okay, if you are watching the replay and you're saying, Elise, my child would be a first timer, then I have something special to offer you. Okay. For those who are just joining, hi, welcome. So for those who are still on the call, while we wait for questions or not, people will watch this after the fact. I want to let you guys know that we are starting our 8-week French reading comprehension program. It's called the French Prodigy Program. It's starting next week, okay? This specific class is reserved for those in grades 1 to 9, and you've got to be either in French immersion or in French first language school, okay? It's been a great journey. It's been a very great journey, and we're starting a new cohort, okay? This is the beginning of the school year, and it is important that you set your kids up right. You know, I always say I don't really believe in particularly New Year's resolutions. Okay. Like we can do them and people do them. And I believe you should set different goals, but I feel like it's just consistency that's the game changer. When you're consistent with something, okay. Like I said, I got parents where they come to our programs all school year. Why? Because they don't just want their kids to be great in September. They want them to be great all school year, all calendar year long. Okay. So that's where we are with this French Prodigy program. We've seen incredible results. We do a lot of the foundational pieces of what it takes to excel in French reading comprehension, French literacy, big deal for me. Uh, and confidence building in our kids, huge deal for me. So I see someone in our Facebook group who is saying they're a first timer. So let me know as well in the chat, what grade is your child in, and are they in French immersion or French full language school? Okay. And IG fam, once again, you are welcome to ask. Okay, we have a question here in the box. All right, let me address IG while you are in our Facebook community responding to my question, okay? So, okay, so we got a question here asking, what's the best tool I would recommend for a beginner? Glad you asked. So, beginners are interesting. Sometimes beginners aren't always beginners, like they know a lot more than what they think they do or what they're even confident to share with me, because people have different exposure levels, right? Sometimes there's people, even parents, who say, Lise, I don't know any French. I did a class in high school. Then they might come to one of our sessions or overhear something with their kids and go, oh, I kind of remember that. But if you are a beginner, I think it's really important to respect and honor the basics. So when it comes to basics, I am talking about the everyday speak. Okay. So in French, getting even as basic as starting off with the French alphabet. Okay. The French alphabet is not just knowing a song. The French alphabet is about paying attention to the sounds of the letters. Okay. So when I encourage parents to get familiar with YouTube. I think YouTube is so gold. And you know what, Instagram? I'm going to, for my parent that asked that question, shout outs to you. I'm gonna send you, let me just try to find it. There's actually a resource that I'm gonna send you. It's a free resource that's really gonna be incredible. And it's labeled appropriately because it has different, like some of my favorite uh, websites, YouTube channels, depending on what level or what area of French your child is working on. Okay. So it is let me just get that link for you. Okay. That's an incredible question. And on that resource that I send you right here in the chat. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Send me, DM me, okay? I have a resource coming to you. Okay. My friend in the chat, DM me. I have a resource for you, okay? Okay, so you guys speak English at home, but my son, who's 5 years old and in preschool, attended a full French school. Amazing. Is this going to slow him down in French learning? No. So it's not going to slow him down. I am a product of going through a French immersion program with parents at home who did not speak the language. Okay. It's possible with intention. And what I say is, like I said, your job as a parent, you're not, no one is asking you to be the teacher at all, at all. We don't need to be the teacher. What you do need to be is understand what questions you need to be asking, understanding how to maybe even not take everything you hear from a teacher or at face value. You dig deeper. Say, can you just explain that a little bit differently? And also asking your child certain questions. Okay. So asking them, how is school going? But not just how is your day basic? What is your favorite thing you're learning at school right now? Looking in their cahier, their notebooks, okay, their binders, whatever, and just making certain observations. When you have parent-teacher interview, making sure that you come prepared with different questions based on what your child's results are saying. So it's more about being inquisitive and seeing yourself as more a partner with them on the journey and taking all the load off in terms of you having to teach them any French. Leave the teaching to the teachers and to us and any other resources that you get your hands on. And yeah, they should be fine. And being 5 in full French school, I see that being a really great start for them. Yeah. Okay. So yes, Vimbai, I can share with you. Yeah, I can share it with my Facebook guys. I'll DM you. Okay. Because there's a benefit for showing up live, guys. Here you go, Vimbai. In your direct message. There you go. How's Divine? Hopefully he's well. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up now, guys. We're gonna wrap up. If you are watching this after the fact, feel free to message me if your child is a first timer, because there is a benefit for the first timer crew with us with our program that starts next week. Okay, we got a program starting January 15th, and good. I'm happy he's good. And we're excited. So if your child is needing to be in there, registration is technically closed, but because I mentioned it, if you need to be in the class, message me. Message me, get the details you need, get your kids enrolled because once we're off, we're off. We're off for the 8 weeks. All right. We're going full speed ahead and starting our winter semester really strong. All right. So thank you guys for joining. I will wrap up here, like I said, and I'll look out for any messages that happen to come up after this live. You guys have yourself a good evening. Take care. Bye bye.